Hey there, I'm Cindy Renna, and you're listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box, where I help you build a homeschool that fits your unique family.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. I am thrilled to introduce my guest today. It is Mandy Davis, who you may know from the Wild and Free conferences, and you should know from her book, The Homeschool Bible. Mandy is a visionary leader in the world of education and homeschooling, holding a master's degree in education with a wealth of experience as both a dedicated educator and a former school principal. Her journey began in traditional education, where she worked tirelessly within public schools, private schools, and international institutions. But her path took a transformative turn when she chose to homeschool her three children, allowing her to blend her extensive background with a heartfelt commitment to personalized alternative education. Mandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Cindy.
Well, I want to start off just in case people are not familiar with your work. You have a big presence on Instagram as well. But if they don't know that, can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, I'll actually go back a little bit further than my introduction. So I am a product myself of the school system, and I think if you looked at me on paper when I was a student, you'd say she's a great student and is thriving in the school system. I got good grades. I would say I was a pretty system compatible learner where I could definitely performance learn or appear to be learning well because I'm just a natural rule follower and I want to stay organized. And more than anything, at that age, I didn't want to get in trouble. So on paper, I think I looked like the model student, but my school years were a struggle. I was bullied heavily in school. I had anxiety over grades. I probably put too much pressure on myself when it came to tests, when it came to grades. Again, that performance mindset of, being the student I thought everyone wanted me to be.
Hmm.
So out the gate, I just knew getting into young adulthood that I wanted to go into education and be the educator and make the change that I didn't experience as a child. So right away from university, I started teaching fifth grade. And again, it's kind of the same thing. I think on paper, you would say, wow, that was a really successful teacher. I had good test scores. I had kids who were all mid or above when it came to performance. But all of those goals I had to take a personalized approach to make sure all children felt included, to make sure I was personally connecting with each child in my classroom. It was not possible.
Yeah.
And quickly, I learned my goals and what I wanted to do. It wasn't a part of the job description. It wasn't a part of what my job would allow me to do.
Hmm.
Everything was rushed. Everything was go faster, push harder. This is a testing year, being in fifth grade. The kids have state testing. Everything revolved around that.
Yes.
And
And
and at that and at that point, I figured, okay, I must need a higher vantage point. And that's what drove
mm,
me to admin and to becoming a school principal
mhm.
and hoping I could make the major change that my teachers would need to be able to make the connections that I had wanted to make. Um, but as a school principal, my hands were even more tied than before. And
Wow.
at this point, I'm a mother, and I was kept my daughters at the time in the same school building where I was their school principal. My daughter's education was kept an arm's length from me, and I was their principal, and I
Wow.
couldn't make an impact in their classrooms. Um, that was it for us as a family, where there were other factors as well of just feeling too much pressure, too little movement. I was watching recess getting cut. I mean,
Mhm.
this timeline too was halfway over the COVID timeline. So I was
Oh,
also dealing with mandates and changes, and I couldn't, I, my hands were tied
yeah.
for every direction. And so feeling like that environment was toxic for me as an adult, and deciding to give up this career and give up everything, I thought I was working towards, for what my husband and I would call a toxic environment.
Mhm.
We couldn't leave our kids there.
Right.
And so now this concept of homeschooling, which had never crossed our minds, which we had never considered, which even going through all of that education to be an educator, I had never thought, oh, maybe one day I'll homeschool my children.
Mhm.
Now that was at the very forefront. It wasn't even an option. It was, we're doing this because we've seen the other side.
Wow. And that your story is so interesting because I think a lot of times people are drawn to homeschooling for negative reasons. If something is not, they're not performing well, or there's a variety of reasons. But for you, like you said, on paper, you were a wild success on both sides of it. And so
Mm,
it's interesting that you can homeschool even if public school's quote unquote working.
mm.
But like you said, really you were seeing it wasn't working. The underbelly
Absolutely.
is that
Yeah.
it wasn't. Yeah, to
Hmm.
not be able to affect change at that level, because I think that's what people think is if I could just get in there and make a change. And I know having kids in the school system, mine started in the school system as well. And doing the IEP meetings and fighting the good fight and thinking, well, if I can just, and there's so many barriers
Absolutely.
that the
Absolutely.
best intentioned teachers and principals aren't able to make a change.
No.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So you considered homeschooling because, right, what are you going to do? Leave and then leave your kids in there.
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, that was the epiphany. That was the most alarming and
Right.
funny at the same time to my husband and I. Like, we're sitting there, we're discussing how drained I feel at the end of the day,
Mhm.
how this is not right, how this environment is so negative, how what I'm seeing in other kids, what I'm seeing other parents and families go through.
Mhm.
There's no way we could be,
Right.
making that decision of, okay, I'm going to leave. Girls, good luck.
Right.
So, so at that point, it was just they're coming home.
Yes. So what would you say were your biggest reservations after even after you realize, wow, we really have to do this? Like you said, you weren't ever planning to homeschool. So what were the things that kind of froze you in your tracks?
From the school system.
No, when you decided to homeschool.
Oh, like the biggest new learning experiences of
Yes.
homeschooling. Oh
That you
gosh.
thought, oh no, how are we actually going to do this?
Oh goodness. So I do feel like when I share with anyone from family and friends to strangers that I homeschool, they're not surprised. They say, "Oh, that makes sense. She was an educator. She was a principal. That makes sense."
Mhm.
Whew. Okay, any educators who have left, it is so hard.
I've
It
heard
is
that.
so hard. And we have to fight against everything society's told us,
Mhm.
everything that's been ingrained in our education, ingrained in what we've done for a career. I made every single cliche in the book in my first year. I mean, I remember coming in the first day and like feeling really good. I had a planner that was color coded by the hour of like, this is what we're going to do. This
Right.
is math. We're going to get through this much. And within like 45
Yeah.
minutes, it was off. I felt like I was failing. And so
Oh, yeah.
immediately, your brain goes to, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy to go there, especially when you're doing something out of the norm.
Sure.
It's so easy to go there. Um, and this caused, y- you know, my husband and I, didn't have some really major conversations that looking back, I wish we would have had, like
Hmm.
how to support one another right when we start and what both of our exact roles are right when we start. Because while he wasn't homeschooling and I was doing the major educational portions, he was
Hmm.
very much a part of the homeschool, but we just hadn't defined that. So I
Hmm.
think that was a big learning curve also because he would come home and I'd be in tears saying, I can't do this. And then his go-to was, okay, we've got to send him to school, you know? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
where I needed a rock, he's just trying to quickly solve the problem himself.
Sure.
It was such a roller coaster in year one. And I feel like this is really where the heart of the homeschool Bible was written
Yeah.
because there were just so many times I just needed something to come back to tell me
Hmm.
you're okay.
Right. And what's normal? What's the norm? What should we be doing? I think that's what's hard is we do have a lot of freedom. So then that can be paralyzing when we're
Mm.
like, but is this okay? Is this fine? Are we fine?
Oh, that's exactly it. I loved the freedom and I
Um,
was so afraid of it because
sure.
sometimes that silence, it just starts to put your own voice in your head saying, wait, am I
Mhm.
doing this right? Am I doing enough? Should I be doing something differently? And that was tricky in year one for us.
Yeah. And like you said, so this book is so beautiful. I was just
Oh, thank you.
captivated by how pretty it was. If I ever get our interview online, look at people, you need to look at this
Oh.
book in real life. It's gorgeous and it's colored on the inside too, which I just love it. It's beautiful to look at. You want to open it and it's like full of tons of resources. And so like you said, your uh, struggles in that first year are what drove you to write this because you can kind of see that thread through. It's really well thought out because you probably went through each of these challenges at some point, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So super practical, nuts and bolts. The reflection questions at the end of the chapter were great. Talk about the process. I know why you wanted to write it, but what are you hoping, what curves are you hoping people will avoid by having this
Sure.
resource?
I just remember when I started and
Mhm.
looking for homeschooling books, and there
Mhm.
were so many um, beautiful books that I still come back to today um, that touched on inspiration
Uh-huh.
and encouragement.
Mhm.
And it made me feel like I wasn't alone because I would read of someone else's struggles. But I just wanted something to hold that could answer my questions.
Yes.
And there's so much information out there that it can be very hard to find that. And so I just wanted to place that in the hands of families um, looking to homeschool, considering homeschooling, just wanting a homeschooler's mindset because so many of these
Mhm.
educational practices can just be brought home. And, very intentionally designed because it shouldn't be shelved. It should be out and
Mhm.
opened often and referred back to. So hopefully the curve being time saving
Mhm.
and just reminding you you're not alone in this and a quick trusted resource that you
Mhm.
can pick up, turn to the glossary and just
Mhm.
find what you need quickly.
Yeah. And it's a zoomed out book, so it's not zoomed in on a particular philosophy or approach.
Right.
And so it's a great overall broad sweep of homeschooling. So like you said, families who are new to homeschooling or even just considering it or just have no idea where to start because I think it's hard even for people who've been homeschooling a long time and then we have friends who will say, "Hey, I'm going to homeschool. What do I need to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, how do I condense Charlotte Mason's 20 principles into a 30-second response?" Like sometimes you just
Right.
know too much and you don't even know where to tell them to start or if the way we homeschool is going to be the way they need to homeschool. And I've had friends join certain groups and I always caution them about getting into communities too deep too fast because I'm like, because then if that group doesn't work for you, they throw the towel in and say, oh, homeschooling didn't work. No, no,
Oh,
no.
that's
That group didn't work. But there's
Mhm.
so many other ways to homeschool, but they can't see that. So I appreciate that about your book is that you're giving a zoomed out, broad view that then people can, then you can, oh, I do kind of like this approach, or I do, and then they can dig into that on their own.
Oh, that is exactly it. And that was something really important to me. I didn't want to write a book to share, hey, this is how I homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this a lot on my platforms, but the curriculum I use is highly likely not the curriculum you want to use. You have different kids
Sure.
in different ages and different stages, with different approaches to learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead, I just wanted to be able to give parents that starting block
Mm-hmm.
of this is how you develop your homeschool
Yeah.
and not replicating someone else's.
Yeah. Having the pieces to build it. That's good. Um, I love the other part I wrote here. It forces you to answer those questions that you're going to get anxious about. It has you look them right in the face right off the bat. And so, why was
Yes.
that important for you to add that?
I think it comes back to being in that year one. Year one was tough. Year one was just so tough for us. And I don't shy away from sharing that, especially in partnership with my husband. I mean, this book
Yeah.
is for you and your spouse
Yeah.
because we, I feel like as a society, we have our babies, we read books on our babies, we sleep train, we get on the same page. We have these toddlers, we read books on the milestones, we get on the same page. And then for whatever reason, our culture has it that at school age, we have this lifted responsibility
Mhm.
of education. And homeschoolers feel this all the time because
Mhm.
we get questions like, how are you going to socialize?
Yeah.
That's another aspect that for whatever reason it's considered okay, your kids are school age, you can lift that responsibility off you. The school's got
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
And it's such a dangerous assumption.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever I'm asked that question now, I just flip that question around like
Right.
how are you socializing, your children, because we're all doing the same thing as parents. We're
Mhm.
all responsible for it. Um so digressing a bit there, but um when it comes to that thinking of, I don't need to give school much thought, that was me.
Mhm.
I didn't even consider homeschooling until we really had to.
Yeah.
And I think that these hard questions in the beginning, um, every parent should be having, whether or not they're even considering homeschooling,
Sure.
because you need to know why you are choosing X school option
Mhm.
for your children and child.
Yes, yes. And I think that, forever it was just public school. You just got on the
Mhm.
yellow bus and off you went. And then there was the idea of private school. And then that was kind of taboo. And now homeschool, it's just, you're right. It's astonishing to think that we don't even question and we just assume that this is the next step and we delegate that out. I remember a family member saying to me when we first started homeschooling, he said, "Wow, that's a big responsibility." I said, "Well, so was having kids." Like it's
Yes.
kind of the same thing and the joke that homeschooling is just motherhood plus math. It's if you are connected to your child in those early years, it is a natural next step, but like you, we started in the school system and it's really a paradigm shift. So it's like it was almost helpful to me to just go back to whatever connection we had before they ever went to school and
Mm.
kind of start back from there, realizing, oh, I am the person in their life. Like who needs to make this decision. This is not somebody else's job to make this decision.
Absolutely. And just touching back to including your spouse, you know,
Yes.
I feel like there is a heavy majority of mothers who will take on the primary role
Hmm.
when you choose to homeschool. Um, However, your spouse is still very much a part of that decision.
Yes.
And until you're on the same page with the decision, you're going to feel very alone.
Hmm.
And then in the quiet of the freedom of homeschooling, when you have those, am I doing this right? You need that person to say, keep going.
Yes, you need the support from your husband. And also I think dads can be overlooked just as how they might want to participate. Is there something that they want to do? I have a friend who, but once the kids hit algebra, that gets offloaded to dad. Then dad teaches algebra. So it's a great opportunity to be collaborative.
Mhm.
Have you read the book by, I think his name is Jonathan Bean? This is my home, this is my school. It's a picture book. Are you familiar with
No,
this? It's the
that's
sweetest book. He was homeschooled. So in this picture book, he illustrates how his homeschool looked. And so it shows mom doing things with them and then dad, doing PE like they're all playing football. And so it's a sweet picture and a good reminder of, yeah, there are things that your husband might love to be teaching the kids that might not look like, you know, spelling tests or whatever, book work, but it's keep that broad point of view
I
and
love that.
collaborate.
Yes.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, okay, loved your pros con list to work through all of the decisions that come with homeschooling, and then being who I am. One of the chapters that popped out to me the most was that you have a whole section for outside the box kids. So, can you talk
Absolutely.
about what made you put that in there?
Sure. Primarily from being a principal, although I saw this in my classroom as well.
Hmm.
I sat down with so many families, working with them, developing IEPs,
Uh-huh.
making sure accommodations were available in the classroom. Um, and these were tough. These were tough meetings. I felt like in every meeting, my job was to try to get a plan in place that
Hmm.
was going to serve a child to get to where the school, the classroom needed the child to be. And sometimes
Yep.
these were the most difficult conversations.
Hmm.
The parents knew better every single time. You know your child.
Yeah.
And oh, I just am thinking back to amazingly passionate parents that would fight for, you know, XYZ accommodation, or I read this, or I found this study. And my hands through every meeting were completely
Yep.
tied to, okay, but this is the only thing this building can offer. This is the only thing this school can offer.
Right.
This is the only thing our district offers for free.
Yep.
Actually, we're in a state testing year. And so the state would say, we can't include that accommodation past XYZ grade. It was frustrating. It was
Yeah.
frustrating because at the end of the day, are we trying to promote growth and mastery and learning?
Right.
Or are we trying to get kids to pass a test?
Yeah.
And it came down to that every single time. So
Yep.
I felt like this chapter was really important because when you are learning at home, you can take the approach the child needs.
Yes.
And there are still services available
Hmm.
if you want them. And
Right.
that's important to know and talk about too.
Right.
But having the power to say, I know my child and what they need, and this is important that we try.
Hmm.
It's such a change from we can't, but not because that's not the best solution for your child, but because of a school choice, a choice the school made that now, unfortunately, you are receiving the effects from, or because our district said no to this because it's a state test year. You know, having that sort of freedom, it's huge.
Oh, absolutely. And we experienced that firsthand. I remember going to the developmental pediatrician at Vanderbilt would be so frustrated with this. She'd write prescriptions and say, this child needs this. And then I'd go to the IEP meeting and say, this is what our doctor said. And they'd say, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We'll give you, and it would be like maybe a quarter of what the PED was asking for. And so there's just this fight. And and then the parents trying to do right, like you said, knowing what the child needs. And I mean, for us, if I honestly, it just got to the point where I thought, okay, homeschooling's got to be easier than this,
Mhm.
right? Like
Right.
I can't spend my life fighting. I can't change the system. If I, even if I made impacts, it would be, that's not going to help my kid today. And I need to help him today. So, right. And we had some very well-meaning people. We met some wonderful
Mhm.
people. But you're right about it just being your hands are tied. Even if they
Right.
really, really wanted to do it, they couldn't. And so it sounds like you agree with my thoughts that if kids are falling through the cracks in school or being, just players on this, this test driven education, then kids with special needs are, I mean, just falling completely through the cracks. Would you
Absolutely.
agree that that's what you saw?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
When when you have to try to sit in a meeting and discuss, okay, this is the list of needs that a student has.
Mhm.
How can we try to meet in the middle? That's a problem.
Right. Yeah. No, how can you just help do the
Right.
thing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think too, just having different goals entirely. I remember sitting in meetings and they're focused on, they really wanted my son to be able to take his hat off in class, which he kept to this day, wears a ball cap every day for
Mhm.
sensory reasons. And it
Sure.
is helpful to him. And we've worked with him some, and there are times he will take it off, but it was never like top priority for us. And so
Right.
the IEP meeting would be focusing on something like that. And I'm thinking, I don't even care about that. Like,
Right.
I would like him to be able to make a friend or communicate with kids more effectively, which he can't do because they have to sit and be quiet. And then even the academics, I remember many meetings where I said, I don't even care about the academics. Don't teach him anything. I will teach him. He was reading at probably at eighth or ninth grade level when he was 7. And so then he would go into the classroom and they would hand him worksheets that said, color the circle blue. And I thought, this has got to be mind numbing for him. I don't understand why they're not trying to help him grow in the areas that we want to help him grow. So I just felt like it was very, like you said, they were just trying to get him to the level that they needed him to be at instead of helping him to grow in the ways we wanted
Well,
him to, or
yes.
he
Well,
needed to.
and interestingly enough, from your experience with his ball cap, that would be a compliance goal.
Oh, yeah.
And so what's funny is, what about the socialization goal or
Right.
but interesting that that was top priority.
Yes, and so it was a death by a thousand paper cuts. It was all these little
Right.
things that added up to, I think we'll just try this on our own. And so
Right.
I was very happy to see that you had that chapter in there because I think it's a hard step for any parent to make to leave the system, but I think it's extra hard for parents with special needs who have been told for years that they couldn't possibly know what to do. They couldn't possibly handle this situation. They've got to have all this outside help. And they don't maybe have as much muscle mass as other people working, being able to have that confidence to say, no, this is really the best decision for my child.
The tough reality is that I think parents can often feel like a fear of the
Hmm.
school manages a large part of this.
Hmm.
But what any current and former educator can share is that there's not much management happening there.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
have these meetings and we prepare for the next test.
Hmm. Yeah.
parents can do this on their own.
That's what, yeah. And I'm like, as good of a teacher as he might have had, I don't think anybody went home and, thought and prayed and researched the way a mom does, So I thought that's got to
Mhm.
be, that's got to be worth
Yes,
something. So
yes, it is.
I do encourage parents with special needs that you are not exempt from this. I would say it's even more of an option for you to
Absolutely.
consider. Yep. So let's talk about when you did exit. How did you go about you? This book is so great with like the nuts and bolts about, okay, how do I fill out a form? Do I have to, which of course varies from state to state. But what would you say your exit strategy looked like? Were your kids on board? Was it a big meeting? Like how did you actually leave the school system? What did that look like?
Sure. Oh gosh, this was huge for our family.
Hmm.
And I think um I think that my exit, the same time as the kids, is going to be exponentially harder than your average family's exit
Sure.
from the school system, mainly because we were leaving behind, my colleagues and coworkers, my
Hmm.
personal social network, my career. The same time we were pulling our kids to homeschool, deschool out of that mindset as a
Hmm.
former admin. And also because I was their school principal, a lot of their friendships.
Yeah.
And at the time, the girls were still in elementary age.
That's what
And
I was going to ask.
so,
How old were they?
right.
Hmm.
They were 8 and 10.
Okay.
And so at the time, their social play dates and that sort of thing was still very much managed by parents.
Yeah.
But these parents knew me as their child's school principal. So
Right.
there's all these different dynamics that were at play, including starting to homeschool um, without us knowing anyone in our family circle of friends or locally that homeschooled.
Wow.
Um, so it was very big. And looking back, we definitely we took the path without looking back, which I think was the right thing to do,
Hmm.
and really leaned into each other as a family at the time. And we're going to do this together. We're walking this together. So um, it worked, but it was also devastatingly hard to
Sure.
lose an entire community. Um, my daughters, similar to myself, are pretty my oldest especially was always system compatible in she could perform in school.
Hmm.
Both of my kiddos did well in school, even if school wasn't good for them.
Right.
So they're at the ages where they know what's going on. They
Hmm.
know that, okay, um, mom, who just saw me in the hall, it's going to be her last day soon, and
Yeah.
we're leaving too. And so we took it a day at a time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another roadblock for a lot of families.
Hmm.
A lot of moms, parents considering homeschooling will say, I don't think I could do that. And when you really get down to it, what they're looking at is like a 13-year commitment
Yeah.
of something they've never tried, they've never done, and maybe something that makes them feel a little bit nervous.
Sure.
And so when you have all those big feelings and you're looking at dedicating 13 next
Yeah.
years of your life, it's easy just to say, no, thank you.
Right.
So we take it a year at a time.
Hmm.
We didn't go into homeschooling and say, this is this is it. Like we're
Hmm.
starting this now. You'll graduate, homeschooler, baby brother, who's now 4, will be homeschooled all throughout. We said, next year, we're homeschooling.
Yeah.
And this is what that means for our family. It means flexibility. It means slow mornings. You're going to have more time for activities during the day. We're going to have
Hmm.
evenings together as a family. Mom's not going to be rushing in late to make dinner, late
Right.
for everything, packing lunches at night, going over homework. No, we're going to slow down this year. We also took year 1 to travel more,
Nice.
and we'll see how it goes. And then we're constantly checking in.
Hmm.
Is our school choice still serving us? Is homeschooling still serving us?
Yeah.
Are we growing? Are we learning? And are we still feeling connected? Are we still feeling um, connected to each other, connected in faith, connected to the idea of homeschooling? Is
Yeah.
this serving us well? And so far, every year has been a go. And so we have steadily continued. I think that's a big thing. Check in on whatever school choice that you're
Mhm.
making. Is this still serving? And when and if you want to try to switch to homeschooling, don't look at it as, okay, this is it. If I switch, that's it. The public
Right.
school is going to lock us out. No, they'll be fine. They're
Yeah.
fine. If you end up mid-year saying,
Yeah.
for an emergency reason we have to come back there, like welcome.
Yeah.
So I try to take that fear off of parents.
Yeah. And you make a good point about community. And community is extremely important in your homeschool journey. I encourage people to get connected with other homeschoolers, form community. But when you pull out of the school system, you do have a community. You have each other.
Mhm.
Like that is enough, especially right in the beginning. And sometimes that's even better because you get to really I know for us like there was some disconnect, so there was a lot of that was a healing time for us to really get back on the same page with each other, to get back into a rhythm as a family, and look at our family culture and what were we
Yes.
trying to do instead of just plugging into what somebody else was telling us to do, being able to take the reins back and say, this is what we're about, this is who we are. And so that
That's so
can
true.
be a healthy thing to not have community right away.
hmm That is so true. It is. It is so true.
Yes. So would you say that there was something that really helped your kids transition into the homeschool lifestyle? You kind of touched on it just then. Describing your day. Gosh, I get like sick to my stomach thinking about you talking like packing lunches and the morning rush and the
Oh,
rushing home from school and trying to get dinner done, then homework. Like I was never good at it. I mean, we were so late all the time. Like we missed so many days. And I would, even when we were in school, if the grandparents drive down from Michigan to Alabama, I'm not sending my kids to school. We're going to hang out with the grandkids parents. And so, um, I feel like I was not a great public school mom. It was a very stressful thing for me. So I think
yes.
the allure of like slow down. We don't have to wake up at that time. We can take our time with breakfast and read together and talk and all that. Would you say those were the things that really helped your kids to transition, or were there other things that you highlighted, maybe more specific to them, like you'll have more time for X, that worked for your family?
Kind of a blend,
Hmm.
really. I mean, when we first started homeschooling, the person that needed to change the most was me.
Sure.
I needed to really let go of the completionist mindset from the school system of,
Hmm.
finish every worksheet. And if you don't get it done, we'll get it done.
Right.
I had to let all of that go and a lot of that bell schedule in your head
Hmm.
too of just, did we do enough math today? Just I
Hmm.
had to let it go. Slowing down helped. Slowing
Hmm.
down and really for us, slowing down meant respecting the pace of childhood
Hmm.
instead of forcing a pace that made our family feel uncomfortable, rushed, or anxious.
Yeah.
And that was something that was such a benefit to the kids because it meant more time outside. It
Yeah.
meant um, more time to create and be bored and
Hmm.
fall in to interests
Hmm.
that you wouldn't have otherwise found or even had time for.
Hmm.
And I think that was the big thing for my kids in year one. My oldest discovering her passion for dance, something
Hmm.
that actually for her had really been squashed from some negative experiences she had in
Hmm.
school. Having that freedom and building confidence at the same time.
Yeah.
For my middle, it was art. And she continues to just amaze us today because she had time.
Yeah.
From classes to now, trying competitions.
Mhm.
Um, it's just not, it's just so interesting to me when it comes to looking at the homeschool day versus the typical public school day.
Mhm.
The children and the parents, when it comes to homeschooling, I feel like we're less consumed
Mhm.
than when we were a part of the system
Yeah.
because I'm not on this tight schedule anymore. I'm
Mhm.
not sitting in pickup lines anymore. I'm not managing homework
Right.
anymore. I'm not doing the lunches, the special colored day, or,
Yes.
the PTA meetings, the
Yes.
fundraisers, the this. And so when you look at the amount of direct formal instruction that our kids need when you're homeschooling, which is a few hours,
Mhm.
versus the hours that are consumed
Yeah.
by the school system, I mean, it's remarkable. So releasing my children from that hold also, and
Mhm.
just opening their day. Um, we stopped living for 7 p.m. when everyone was done with
Right.
homework and activities and dinner, and we stopped living for the weekends. And we
Yeah.
just started realizing like these children, they're going to hold on to their childhood.
Mhm. Yeah. That's so good. I'm curious because you said you were the one that needed the most
Mm.
change, in your thinking. What were some resources, some books, some podcasts, Substacks that really helped you to make that paradigm shift and see the freedom that was available to you and let go of, I mean, because you were not only just going to public school, but then teaching and principal, like that was really ingrained in you as this is what education looks like. So,
Mm.
were there some resources that really helped you let go of that and broaden your view on what education really is and can look like?
Wild and Free and
Uh-huh.
Ainsley was huge for me. I still remember the first time Ainsley reached out to me
Mm-hmm.
and um, asked me actually to speak at my first Wild and Free conference.
Uh-huh.
And I remember emailing her back, telling her I wasn't sure I could do it because I wasn't very wild. And I'm not sure if I'm all that free either. Like, I'm just not sure. And she just gave me all this confidence of you can do this and you
Oh,
are, and
yes. Yeah.
your voice matters. And so since then, I feel like connecting with um, just such strong advocates of wild and free
Mm-hmm.
childhoods like Ainsley, connecting with advocates of being outside like Jenny Urick,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with advocates of just holding your faith and your children so close in your home like Sally Clarkson.
Yeah.
These women have just inspired me and um, taught me, you know, no, Mandy, you don't have to do it my exact way,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not doing it wrong. Like you're fine. You
Yeah.
you don't have to be as wild and free as
Yes, I love that. And I think when we read these because the names you named are a lot of names on my list too. And I think when we read these people, it's less of like, oh, they're reshaping how you think, but they're undoing some of the wrong thoughts that you have picked up over the years, and they're releasing you to think what you would have thought if you were on a desert island alone with your kids and your husband and you could just do it your way. I think that might be what we gravitated towards, but there were all these voices saying something different. So for me, it always felt like more of like this release. Like I have permission to just do what I wanted to do anyway. Well, tell everyone listening where they can find you. I know you're on Instagram. Do you have any other projects you're working on or places that you hang out online?
Yes, you can find me daily on Instagram at Homebuilt Education. You can also visit me on my website, homebuilteducation.com, where I have a blog and endless resources, as well as the homeschoolbible.com to learn all about my books and some new projects that are underway.
Fantastic. Mandy, thank you so much for being on. I think you are such a light to people who are leaving the school system and wanting that encouragement and those guardrails to say, okay, we can do this. And the Homeschool Bible definitely provides that. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.